Are we sure? What was that?
He's
That
not
was me
okay.
coughing.
This episode of Getting Tabled is brought to you by Valhalla Hobby. Use code TABLE to get 5% off any order over $100, one use only. Thanks to our fumblers for supporting us. Please consider becoming a fumbler for $2 a month. You can listen to us live.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you are all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 150 of Getting Tabled with your host, the Bruce.
Why are we talking like we're robots? Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode. We also have with us...
I just thought I'd tone it down a little bit, like not harsh the mellow.
I've got a great idea. You and I should be really, really docile, and Socks is now ordered to be extremely excited for the entire episode.
I could try that for about 3/4 of it, maybe. That's about it.
But we never allow you to talk, so we're both going to walk away now, and you've got an entire episode by yourself. See you later.
Hey, folks, how's it going? Just switch over to the soapy voice. We'll be good.
I guess I should probably... Oh, no, it's okay. It's only Major Socks. Nobody cares.
Yep, it's only me. It's only me, folks. Yep.
And there is somebody else here, but he doesn't matter.
No, he doesn't matter. He's probably freezing up there in Wyoming because it's below negative degrees up there.
But it was summer in Wyoming last week.
It
was.
It is currently 0 right now.
Yeah.
Which is something like negative 12 Celsius or something like that.
Yeah, but that's just because Fahrenheit is weird. Speaking of Fahrenheit, I am offended on behalf of the American people.
Why is that, Bruce?
Because everybody in your capital city is drinking a drink that's called Celsius, and the drink is not called Fahrenheit. That's very un-American.
Oh.
I made this joke on YouTube earlier in the week, and all of the responses were awesome.
I also call it freedom units, not Fahrenheit. So
I think the only real criticism I got that made sense was that yes, but nobody can spell Fahrenheit. Which is probably not far from the truth. I had to look it up.
it's one of those words that's like it's not spelled the way it should sound, or it's.
I'm pretty sure that's because it's German.
God,
It looks like a German. I could be wrong, but it looks like a German word to me.
Origin of.
By the way, welcome to this gaming podcast.
We're talking about degrees of temperature.
And we very narrowly avoided talking about politics.
The Fahrenheit temperature scale was invented by Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit, a German physicist, in 1724.
Thank you. I'd question why you doubted me, but I think the only one that was doubting me was myself. We should talk about the news, maybe.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
And we're starting with maybe the most me article we could. This is extremely random. It's about dice, and it's about dice that seem to have been created to mock me. They are teardrop dice. So this is a set of D&D dice, essentially, that are all shaped like teardrops. For people that roll badly with dice. I just think this is really fun. It's really silly, but it's really fun.
So I have some ruin D6. They look like the Viking runes you'd see in like a movie or TV show or something like that.
Yep.
And they're D6, and I got those for my Space Wolves. And those dice roll absolutely horribly. There's no actual balance to them at all. So I would one not even begin to think about these. The only person that should have these is Bruce, so that he can roll them, and his dice will portray his feelings as he rolls ones.
I mean, I suspect that if you was to try and buy these for Warhammer, it would cost you a fortune, because this is designed as a D&D set. Buying multiple D6s in this would be extremely expensive.
All I'm seeing is D6s, actually.
Oh, really? Am I wrong? Oh, I'm wrong. Oh, well, there you go. Although it's saying that 2 of them are €22. This wouldn't be cheap even at the best of times.
No.
Especially if you played orcs.
Yeah. I mean, hang on.
You're-
Minimum is about probably, let's say, like minimum for Warhammer is probably 10, right?
I'm trying to think. The sets that Games Workshop sells, I think, are 20 dice sets.
Yes. But you can always double up on rolls.
So
The largest that they offer is 8 pieces, and that's €84. This is not designed for wargamers. Not that I ever claimed that it was.
let's see here. Okay, so Games Workshop, that is 5. Yeah, so by default, Games Workshop sells their dice in sets of 20.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So if you figure you're getting 2 dice for €22, if you just at least get a set, you're looking at €220. Did I math that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I did take my shoes off to count that. So
Yeah, you
So,
did.
what you do is you buy this to add to your dice, not replace them. But again, going back to realism, no, that's not what you buy these for. These are just dice that you buy for fun.
yeah, absolutely.
I just thought it was a lot of fun. I kind
It's
of
a
like
very-
the idea. You're right.
Yeah, it's a very unique idea. Like, I've seen a lot of the class-specific dice, like the mage dice set. You know, the D3 or D4 all the way up to a D20, or like some sort of potion vial. You know, the warrior has their.
Yeah.
I kind of like this as it'd be a good wound marker dice, I think. Because
Going
here's
into
the next.
Yep.
I was gonna say, going into this, it's a roll down dice.
Yes.
The numbers are in order, so you absolutely don't want to
Ah.
roll with these.
Well, no, because it's, yeah. The other thing I've noticed, because I just went into their previous campaigns, because they have been going for a while. These guys have been going for quite some time. But I hadn't realised this. I'm pretty sure we've covered them before. Because if you go into their previous campaigns, there is a campaign they run called Nexus Dice, which I'm pretty sure we covered. These dice look very familiar. I could be wrong, but they just
Nexus
look
dice.
really familiar. Basically, the dice look like a game of Snake, sort of. But they are just
Yeah,
standard D6s otherwise.
Those do look familiar, but I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know, I just thought it was interesting. Like I said, this is kind of a silly, short little thing, which is why I moved it to the first spot. Shall we talk? Shall we move on to what I think is probably the best looking miniatures in this episode? Personally,
Probably.
we're going to look at games. No, we're looking at Parabellum,
Well,
who we haven't looked at for quite some time. Now, just for the record, not having a go at Games Workshop, they have some good releases in that Las Vegas Open. But yeah, I'm sorry, Parabellum have shot them out of the water with this. We have a Japanese-themed army for Conquest. So, essentially what they continue to do is they will rework fantasy tropes into their own style. So we've seen that with the orcs, where they're riding dinosaurs. We've seen that with the elves being evil bad guys creating monsters, so on and so forth. So this is pretty much, I want to say everything from Japanese mythology, to the point where it's being led by a Kasune, which I'm probably saying wrong. We have bird people here as well. Couple of Oni. I love the look of these.
These two, I'm really digging the Phantom Samurai.
Yep.
yeah. I am too.
The way the way they sculpted those to where there's no body and like the hand on the one front and center is literally detached and holding onto the tendril ribbon that it's floating on. Like that is so flipping awesome.
I'm just going to say this out loud. This is what the Thousand Suns should have been. I realise that the armour for a Space Marine is all enclosed and stuff, but this is what they should have been aiming for. There should have been separations and stuff to make it more clear that there's nothing inside.
Well, so to be fair, one, the scale at which Games Workshop is having to do that on would be really hard too.
That is true.
The number of minis you would have to do like that, like Games Workshop is already doing that with like Nighthawk and stuff like that, and those armies are such a pain because they're so damn fidgety and fiddly and breakable. If I remember correctly, these guys are what scale are these? These
40,
are a larger scale.
Is it 40 mil?
48?
45 maybe.
38.
38. There we go.
38. Okay, so 38. So that's a much bigger mini.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought of
allows
that when I
for-
made the comment. You're right.
Much more material to do something like this and not have it be super fragile and breakable.
Yeah. We have covered Parabellum quite a lot previously. We haven't covered them recently. And ironically, a lot of my old episodes where I've covered this seem to have been noticed a lot lately and have been kind of getting fired off. Because I've noticed somebody else used our referral code recently that I didn't even know still worked.
I didn't know that was still working either. Yeah,
I was under the impression that they'd stopped our code, but obviously they haven't. So thank you to whoever that was. If you want to use the code tabled, I can't guarantee that it still works. But hey, you get a discount. We get a little kickback from it.
They might have shut it off by now. Hopefully they haven't, because obviously our videos are still working for them.
I know that I wasn't here to cover other stuff. Actually, no. Before I move on to something else, I want to look at the Kasune up close, because this thing is just all kinds of beautiful. So this is another one of the... It's a preview edition. So this is a model that we will eventually get a new model of, and you won't be able to get this one anymore. But it's just beautiful. So not only is it like it's the fox demon type thing, but it's surrounded by foxes.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I didn't think anybody would be able to match the Kasune look that Bushido have done. And I'm not saying that this is better, but I am going to say that this is as good, but for different reasons. They've gone in different directions.
Yeah, I was going to say, when it comes to the and I mean this in the best way possible, the traditional Japanese stereotype of you know how these monsters and mythical creatures of legend look. You know, GTC knocks out of the park.
Yeah.
These guys have done in their own way just as good, if not even better. And like the samurai.
Yep.
I'm sorry, that's better than anything GTC has done.
And I think
Just
that's the big difference, where GCT are trying to keep as faithful to the original mythology as they can. I mean, they still make it their own, but they try to keep it as close as they can.
Yeah.
These guys are just going, no, this is our version. We're not making any assumptions about this. This is just our version of it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the Ghost Samurai, you know, where it's just the armor.
Yeah,
I've never seen a mini like that. Like,
no,
this is just mind blowing.
I've seen a 3D print like that once, which is easier to do than casting for something that's kind of empty like that.
But like, you know, is that like a mass production, you know, thing, or is it just something someone, you know, sculpted, you know, digitally, and then you can get the STL and print it?
Yep.
Like, this is like full on production that they've figured out how to do the parts so that when you put it together, it's like this. Like,
yep. Very, very quickly, this is probably obvious, but the Oyabun and the Daimyo are the same kit. They both build each other. It should be kind of obvious from the poses. The body is very much the same. It's the head and the arms that change.
And the weapon.
Oh, the weapon as well. Yeah, sorry, good point.
Same with the Tengus.
Yeah, the Tengus are both the
samurai
same.
style or the archers.
And
Which the Archer one to look amazing.
yeah, I actually think I prefer the archers personally, which isn't to say that I don't like the other one. Something about a bow makes more sense for a bird to me than a sword. And although I didn't say I want to cover this, I do want to very quickly look at the new 2-player starter set, because there is a release in this that we haven't spoken about yet, which is what was it called? Socks? Quoxolotl? No, that's an Aztec thing. It's the giant bird. The giant bird is awesome.
The war drum.
Quaddle.
Thank you. I was getting it confused with the Quetzalcoatl, which is an Aztec thing.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm pretty sure, what it was named after, from memory. So, in this new 2-player starter set, this is a 2-player starter set where you are splitting the Euroni with the Wadrun. In the Wadrun, we have a few things that we've seen already. We have the Raptor Riders, which I love the Raptor Riders. They are awesome. We also have the Raptor Packs, which I haven't got, but they are beautiful looking hunting packs. And then we have the giant Quaddle.
Wing Beast.
The Wing Beast is awesome. I love the look of this thing. It's no secret that I'm a huge fan of the Woodrun. That's clearly not changed. But I like that they do the same thing with their 2-player starter sets that War Cradle does, which is that they basically create 2-player starter sets for everybody. So that it doesn't matter who you want to play, you've got an option to buy and split the box. It's really good. And that's it. From a Parabellum point of view, anyway.
Again, this game just it looks so beautiful. The only thing that's stopping me from getting anything is, who am I going to play with?
This is another one of the games where I spent big money on this game pretty much all at once. And I did a month of releases for videos and stuff because it was all impulse. I got really excited until the next thing. I've never actually played the game. I still have most of what I bought. I got that excited that I bought more stuff than I was ever going to play with. I ended up selling off some boxes that I shouldn't have bought to begin with.
Well, it's like, just because, but I want a dwarf army of this. And
yeah,
I
the
wanna
dwarves
play
are
this.
really nice.
I don't have anyone to play with, so it's like...
Yeah.
And you can only use Sam as an excuse for so many games.
Right? Well, and the fact that, like, these guys are so evil, like, they'll go through and they're like, oh, hey, you want an entire army? Here's an entire army. One box, one thing in your shopping cart, you click the button, you have an army.
Yep.
Like,
and it's a fairly reasonable price.
Yeah, I'm looking at the March of the Warforged, which is the dwarf. It's 2,000 point army is what it says. It's $450. Like, that's not unreasonable for what wargaming costs.
Especially given the size of the models. Like, remember, like, Warhammer Parabellum, like, you're looking at significant money. But it's for much more. I would say that it's better value, but nobody shops for Games Workshop because it's value, right?
Well, you play the game because you want to play the game.
Yeah,
and
that comment is not I'm hating on Games Workshop, though I'm sure it sounds like that. It's just like Games Workshop is not the most value for money. In fact, it's probably the worst value for money on the market. But that's because it can be, right? If you have the number one product in the market, you can price it accordingly. And until people stop buying it, they will continue to raise the price.
Dude, I like the city-states faction, the Greek.
That doesn't actually surprise me at all. I was thinking for you it would either be the city-states or the 100 Kingdoms.
Okay, so here's how I'll wind up buying the complete army of the dwarves.
Yep.
When Sox gets the Effie Warren posting over in Cheyenne and he buys the city-state army.
Just buy one of the 2-player starter sets.
Well, no, because then he'll have a 2,000 point and then I'll have a 2,000 point and then we can play with 4,000 points.
True, but if you start with the 2-player starter set, which will have models that both of you want anyway, you split it between you, and you start small and you grow, which is the smart way to play a game.
Nah, you should dive in.
Says who?
Sorry, I'm forgetting. George is a Marine. He doesn't know how to do things smart.
Or subtly.
All right, we're going to move on. Hey, there's this small game called Don't Look Back that I may have spoken about before, / have a small obsession with, right?
Just a little.
Yeah. So they are going to GameFound. They are doing a brand new core box for the game. The thing I do like about this is that this core set is not a replacement for anything that I own. Everything that comes in the box set can just be added to the collection I already have. All of the characters are brand new characters. It's a brand new killer. This is kind of like... I've always kind of said that Don't Look Back is somewhere in between a war game and a board game. I mean, it is cooperative, but it has a lot of war gamey type rules, but it's essentially a board game in the way that it's designed. This is leaning much heavier into the board game aspect because it's kind of all in one. You get a quick start version of the rules. You get reference sheets. There's 4 new hero miniatures. This is PVC, so definitely more board gamey. 1 new killer. New hero and killer cards, plot cards, item decks, card terrain. That's the big thing here. It's got a printed 3x3 map. This is quite literally a game in a box, where in previous editions, you've had to either build your table or buy a mat and then build your terrain up, which they do offer, but this is... For people that don't like doing the hobby side, this is just purely a board game, which is really clever. There is one thing in particular about this that I pointed out to both of you that got me... It kind of made me blush a little bit, because I'm scrolling down here and it's, oh, they got videos. Oh, hang on. That's my video.
Yeah, my video.
Nobody told me about this. Nobody was like, and this is not a criticism, because I know it's going to sound like that. Nobody's like, hey, do you mind if we use this? They've just gone and done it. And then I've discovered it, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Because that means that they've appreciated my video, right? I mean, A, they've watched it, they know what I've said. And it means that, like, this to me was validation. Especially when it's right there next to big people like... Because, like, Blacksite Studios is right there. Guerrilla Miniature Games is right there. Which is, I mean, that's the big name on the list.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for this. I don't know if I'm going to back this personally yet. Because, I mean, you've both seen the size of my collection for this game already.
Yeah, I was a little shocked at how big it was when I saw that.
Yeah. I mean... I have tons of terrain of my own. I would never use the card terrain personally, except that it would make it easier to carry around, I guess. I mean, carrying terrain around on a bike is risky because it doesn't get protected by the seat like it does in a car. Trees just vibrate apart pretty much. So that probably would be useful from that sense. But I can take a mat and I can use terrain at the place that I'm going to and create a table. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Miniatures-wise, I don't know which one's my favourite. I think I like the cop the most.
Mm-hmm.
Officer Brule.
Sniper rifle.
Yeah. Or I think it's more of a hunter's rifle.
Yeah.
It's more of a hunting rifle for sure. I'm probably gonna have to go with officer. The officer. I mean, Natalie's got a field hockey stick.
Yep.
Ophelia just looks weird. Griffin looks like, you know. So, okay, I just noticed something about Griffin that's gonna drive me nuts. He's wearing cargo shorts, but the cargo pockets are on the front, not the sides.
Yeah.
I noticed that as well.
But the villain, oh my god, the villain looks freaking amazing.
I mean, let's just say this out loud, right? It's Slender Man. Like that is what it's just not somebody. Like, he's not in a suit, therefore it's not Slender Man. But this is Slender Man, right?
In theory.
I really like what they're doing. I mean, they're PVC miniatures, so it's not going to compare to their resin stuff, which is not... I'm not criticizing any of their sculpting, but just PVC doesn't give you the same sort of detail that resin will. It's also cheaper to produce if you're doing it in bulk.
I would almost argue this looks like maybe an attempt at like going to more of a mainstream market.
100%.
Using PVC.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? Why is there an existing game that's very successful on this platform already? That is exactly why. It's to allow it to be open. Because they have been extremely resistant to anything to do with crowdfunding for an extremely long time. They did it for the first time with one of their brand new D&D things because it was a completely new platform. The reason they're doing this is to make it more open to the mainstream audience. That's why it's a board game.
They've done crowdfunding, but on their platform not using someone else's. That's So
I like the fact... I mean, it's still the same game. They're not changing how the game works. There have been adjustments, but that's just a balancing thing. To the point where, just before they go into all of those videos, there's a little warning that says, keep in mind that some of these older videos still have the original rulebook and cards. Because there's been changes made since then.
Yeah.
But if you want to go to a more mainstream audience, you want to launch this on a platform that's going to be seen by people that don't know who you are, you want it to be a game that's all self-contained.
Yeah.
That's what this is. This becomes an introduction to people, which is what you want it to be. I'm really excited to see how this goes.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, it's not live yet, so we will only see more of this as it happens. Shall we talk about the big company?
Games Workshop?
Yeah, Games Workshop. Speaking of which, one of my links didn't open. I'll have to figure out which one that is. So, the one that didn't open is this one, the Death Rattle. So, there's been a whole heap of previews that happened at the Las Vegas Open. I will come back and talk about something that confused me in a moment, because it's... It's embarrassing. In the back of my head for a little while over the last week, I was like, isn't this slightly inappropriate? Because I read it as Las Vegas Open, but I'm thinking about Los Angeles because of what's in the news.
Oh.
Yeah.
Isn't this inappropriate? No, it's not even in that area, Jason.
There's not enough things in Las Vegas to burn except for buildings. There's no trees or anything.
Yeah.
Natural forest like it is.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why California's extremely popular place to live, right? So
Is
because
it?
it's an extremely popular place to live, yes. You wouldn't know that. You don't like living near people.
Exactly.
So, at the risk of stating the obvious, this is one of their major reveal times of the year. There's a lot more that's been revealed than what I'm going to talk about. I've tried to keep it restrained. I'm actually trying to restrain the news a little bit at the moment as we kind of morph and change a little bit. But I want to start with the Soulblight Gravelords because I love me some undead. I am someone that loves some dry undead. That is just a thing that I enjoy. There is one thing in this set that I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of, and it's not because I don't like it. It's because the model that it appears to be replacing is only 3 years old. The worst example of them replacing something that I've ever seen. There is an accusation out there that it's only 1 year old, but that is false information that's being made. The big skeleton in this, the big centerpiece of this thing, is a replacement for a model from 2021. Or at least appears to be. Which is disappointing. The reason I say appears to be is because we haven't seen the rules in the new book yet. So that doesn't mean that the old model has been removed.
So, the first thing that screams to me, looking at, the guys on horseback with the winged helms and the guys on foot with the winged helms, do you know what this screams to me?
No.
Army of Darkness.
Yeah, I could see that. Actually, to be fair, when did these first come out? Because that's probably the original inspiration, right? Not the Games Workshop have ever borrowed from anybody. But let's pretend that they have a very long history of borrowing from people and never admitting it. Is Army of the Dead... That's surely where the Death Rattle originally come from. It has to be.
Evil Dead release.
Well, it's in the 80s.
81.
Yep. You're on the money more than you think you are. Where the Space Marines are a rip-off of... Well, I shouldn't say rip-off. They did make it their own, legitimately. But everything about 40k is borrowed from elsewhere. Like, very... The only thing original about 40k is the lore. Everything else is borrowed. And that's not the first time. Because you can't take undead from Lord of the Rings. I mean, you can, but you don't really see it properly. I mean, in Lord of the Rings, yes, there are skeletons, but they're ghostly. It's not like this. It's a completely different type of skeleton.
Yeah.
Also, that movie didn't come out too much later. I think you're on the money.
That being said, I also think it's a great use of the rust technical to, not the rust, but the copper patina, the green.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're going to do an undead army, and you're not trying to replicate this sort of stuff on whatever armor they have left, then you're not doing it properly.
Yeah.
I mean, rust is one thing, and yes, I love rust, but too much rust can... Like, you need to have more than just rust. It needs to be multiples of wear. I will say, these undead knights might be my favourite undead knights I've seen. They don't have... Like, undead knights always have... Like, the vampire ones look deathly and terrifying. But these undead knights, like the horses look almost fragile, which is what they should really look like.
I don't know, the knights themselves with their helmets and stuff like that, to me they look comical, which is what's making me think of Evil Dead.
Yeah.
And Army of Darkness. Like, I just can't get past it now.
I have to say, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Batwing helm. I've never really... Like, I quite like the vampires that they did a couple of years back as well, but that's also the thing about those undead that I'm not... It's just... If it was me, I would cut the wings off, and I would just have them being classic undead.
Yeah, I'd leave the wings on, and I'd make the general look like he's got a shotgun and a chainsaw for a hand.
By the way, I don't know if you've gotten down low enough, but right down the bottom is Prince Vordrol on the undead dragon.
I did, yes.
It's amazing.
I would use a different head for the
dragon.
For the rider.
Because you want him to be a skeleton. Because the Soul Blight Gravelords are the vampires as well.
Yeah. I understand, but
I would just replace. If you want to do that, I would just replace him with a different model. I would just take one of the knights.
Like, I love the armor, like that look. I think that's a great look. I don't like that head with that armor.
Yeah.
For me, it's just an aesthetic choice. I don't like it. So
no, that's fair. It's looking right down at the bottom.
Now, okay, so go back to the dragon, right? But replace the head with the head of the guy riding the horse just below it, with the long dreads coming up. That would be a good look.
Yeah, no, that I like that. And if you were going to do that, I would also change the color of the armor to what they've got in that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So that it's more the black, dark, rather than the blood. Mm-hmm. Depends on what you want the theme of the army to be, though, I suppose.
That's fair, yeah. But yeah, I think that head with the dreads coming off it like that, I think looks absolutely amazing, and it's better than the traditional Nosferatu look of just bald and very pale skin.
My suspicion, and I'm not reading this, but because obviously the army box at the top is coming out first, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting that the rest of this stuff, we will have one of these models that'll come at the same time, and then everything else will be released when the army comes out as a thing.
Yeah.
That's my expectation of what's going to happen. They probably cover this in the article itself, but I'm kind of just glossing over this because I don't want to spend 3 hours talking about one story.
Well, and I don't want to read it, so because that would involve reading.
Well, we are capable of it, but yeah. Socks. What do you think of the Ash Nomads?
Nah.
Because I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to the undead. You're not really an undead person at all, are you?
Not so much.
Yeah.
Nah. I mean, these little creepy crawly vermin are kind of cool. What are these guys?
I really like the look. There's a piece of artwork they use which almost looks like a robot hidden inside all of the armor and the wraps and stuff. The models themselves, I have mixed opinions on.
So, looking at the way they're dressed and attired, they give me a feel of another intellectual property, and this is what I do. I see things.
Mm-hmm.
They look like they could be pulled from Frank Herbert's Dune.
Yeah, that was exactly what I thought. And to be fair, it's not like everything else has been borrowed from Dune as well, right?
Yeah, but like the bone knives, like the cloaks covering their entire body, the faces, being masked so that every part of their body is covered,
Yeah.
I think it's done well. I think it could have been made a little more nomadish,
I want to say it's Dune meets Judge Dredd.
Yeah, that's fair.
Specifically outside of the city.
Yeah, obviously. It's Stallone Dredd, not Carl Urban Dredd.
Mm. The book is down. The book preview is down lower, which is the piece of artwork I was referring to.
Oh, he looks
completely different, right?
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, he just wants a hug, definitely. I think I like this. Not enough that I would buy them, but I think I have mixed a bit. I like what they're trying to do, but I don't know if it works entirely for me.
It's one of those things where it's like they've tried to do something and they've done it and they've done it well. I don't know if I'm the person that they're looking at for buy this. I mean, it's Necromendus, obviously not, but
I think I know what it is. This feels like it's a kit bash, and I would argue that that's deliberate. But the problem is that if you want to kit bash something, you want to kit bash something, right?
Not just cut off the sprue and glue.
This feels like an army that people are going to want to make themselves, and it feels like they're trying to make this army so that nobody feels like they should. Like it's trying to be something it's not. Maybe. Because, I mean, it's even got, it's got the fur, which is the classic way that you hide all of your seam joins. And it's kind of like bits from we have, in the second image, there's this guy running with these little balls, which look like they're from a Skaven kit.
Or The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery.
Love that movie. How about you give me a frickin' break?
Carla was the prom queen.
I forgot about that, yeah.
Probably the best line in the movie.
Personally, I think that's the best Michael Bay movie that he ever made. And I think there's a lot of people that would argue with me on that, because some people will say that it's Bad Boys. Personally, I think it's that. I also think it's the best, definitely not a James Bond movie that's ever been made. Because Sean Connery is definitely James Bond.
I was going to say that is a James Bond movie. He is 007 that got caught by the Americans.
Yeah.
Hands down. I'd say probably my favorite thing, back on topic of these nomads, is probably the little bug deals. Like,
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just so...
Just a little two-piece model, right? It's going to be a model sliced down the middle.
Probably three-part. Body sliced down the middle, and then you glue the head on.
Actually, yeah, true. I'm imagining that the underside and the above side will be the pieces, because then the seam line is pure, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Because it's quite literally where the model goes. That would be how I slice it.
Yeah, for sure. You're probably right, but I think that the head is definitely its own separate piece. But yeah, this is just one of those good, unique things where it's like, I could see those as like something in a Tyranid army.
Yep.
As like a little spawnling kind of thing.
Yeah. You get enough of them, you put them on a base, and they represent something.
Exactly.
And then finally, the last thing that we're talking about from the LVO is, personally, I think... it's the one that Sox is going to find the least interesting. But I think, this is the least surprising reveal. Everybody saw this coming the moment that Fulgrim was released. They may have... they have tried to pretend like this is the biggest surprise everybody's ever seen. Everybody knew this was happening. The moment Fulgrim happened, it's like, no. Okay, so that's happening next. But in saying that, personally, I think this might be the best preview of the reveal. Firstly, I know we said this last episode, I really like Fulgrim. Apart from the head. No, I don't mind the head. I like the rest of this, though.
Yeah. So, let's rewind a little bit, right? So, when Games Workshop was, Rogue Trader and Tiny Little Thing, they addressed, like the four gods of, Gorn, death, change, pestilence and plague, and then sex and pleasure.
Yep.
And there was a time in the 2000s where they weren't doing much with Slanesh because...
They literally removed him at one point.
Yeah, because it's just like, they're trying to grow and expand their audience, and here they are making plastic models with boobs.
Yep.
And, and kinky, and BDSM, and... I love the fact that they've come back with it, and come back with it super strong with this new Fulgrim. The next guy down just looks all sorts of horrible creepy, and that whip will break if you look at it wrong. But it is so fitting for the God of Pleasure, which, scrolling on down to the Marines, like, holy smokes. Like, sure, okay, so you got your the Emperor, right? You got the Ultramarines, Imperial Fist, Salamanders. All of them are virtually the same armor, like, shoulder pads are swapped out. The only faction that is even remotely different with the armor is Space Wolves.
Yeah.
But
no, Dark Angels, because they got the cloaks.
Okay, yeah, they got the cloaks. But virtually any Space Marine army, you buy the tax squad, you paint it the color you want, done. The fact that, they've really expanded here where, you have your Nurgle Plague Marines that are only for Nurgle because they're so...
Yep.
The core Berserkers, those have been like the long-standing, very unique, Thousand Suns. The fact that now Slanesh has some very, Slanesh Marines where it's very obvious what faction they're a part of, I think is amazing.
Yeah. I will say this. There's definitely a selfish reason as to why they did do that, because it means that you couldn't just buy the same thing, and it means that you have to buy the model that you want, right?
Look,
and I have no problem with that because they've done it well.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with them doing it either for this because, I don't want my Nurgle Marines and my Slanesh Marines to look the same. Like,
exactly.
I want them to be physically, and visibly different. It's, like I said, Imperial Fist, Salamanders, Ultramarines, like they still toe the line. You know, they still rank and file, and for the Emperor, they follow all the rules. They're gonna look the same. They're gonna have the same kit out. They're gonna have the same gear. Whatever. But these guys, they're perverse and perverted, and this is all factions of chaos.
Yeah.
And to finally get good looking Slanesh stuff. What I'm looking at right now is what would you call it? It's the 4 pictures, and it's like 2 of the close-ups are the gun with the face at the end of the barrel, and it's white.
Oh yeah, the Noise Marine. Yeah.
Yeah, like that looks so good.
It's not been that long ago that we got a Noise Marine, but it was only the
Right,
one.
but it was just the one, and it was
this. Not it adds to it, which is what they needed to do. It doesn't make it feel like it's being replaced. This is definitely taking it a step further as far as it's definitely more twisted and stuff. But I don't think that if you had them side by side, if they were painted similarly, I don't think it would be a problem. I think they would mesh fine. Controversial
I'm actually gonna look
opinion.
that one up real quick. Yeah, go for it.
The whole thing about how Slanesh got removed and da-da-da-da-da, because, I mean, let's be fair, the reason they did that is because the previous models, as far as publicly is concerned, was probably a bit far, right? And they, didn't know if they could continue doing it. There was genuinely a serious moment where, despite the fact that they said Slanesh wasn't being removed, it was definitely being removed at one point.
Well,
the stuff
I
that
mean,
they've... Oh, yep.
I was gonna say prime example when they were doing the End of Times where they killed off Fantasy.
Yep.
One of the big models was I can't remember his name, how to say it properly. The Archon of the Apocalypse, like the main Chaos Lord. And he was on
the
that big dragon.
the abomination.
Yeah.
This is glorious.
dragon
This is an abomination.
Yeah, but that dragon he rode on, it had a corn head, it had a Zinch head, and it had a Nurgle head.
Yep.
There's no Slanesh head, and you can't tell me you weren't removing it or playing it safe with that by not putting that Slanesh head on that model.
Look, there's a reason why the internet got very angry over this. My controversial opinion, however, was that, truth be told, I didn't have a problem with it at the time because I could kind of see why they were doing it. It wasn't so much like... There was a chance it was never coming back, but very clearly what they were trying to do was find where that line was going to be. If they couldn't find that line, he was gone. If they could, and they did, then it's fine. Like, part of this is extremely conservative. But everything that's conservative about this hints at something far more. Like, there are no real exposed pieces on this. But there's definitely a nipple ring right in the middle of the armor. If you scroll up to the first lot of Marines where you can scroll through them, one of them quite literally has a ring where the nipple would be.
Oh, yep, sure enough, it's right there.
The
They've all got
chains
it. Yeah.
are very clearly supposed to be attached to something that's in the crotch that Marines don't have. Like, Marines don't have a penis in law. Or at least it's not been confirmed that they have one. But that's definitely what that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, everything about this suggests something if you know what it is. But it's subtle enough that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because to somebody that's not adult-minded, this is just a model that looks cool, right? You will grow up later and see all of those jokes in Shrek that you didn't understand as a kid. But until then, it's fine. There's nothing about this... Socks, is there anything about these models that you would say is inappropriate for your children to see?
No.
And that's the thing. I think they've done it very well.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you go back to the early 2000s Slanesh fantasy stuff, there's a lot of things that were...
If you want to paint these up to be like sickly and twisted. Those same marines that I was talking about, where like it has the nipple ring, the fabric on the bottom, either painted as leather, studded, or as studded skin that's been flayed from something. It's not hard.
Yeah.
It's not how they've been painted it, but
Absolutely phenomenal job.
yeah, no, they've done an amazing job.
They did a great job on the color scheme with these too.
Yeah.
That black and pink. Like
Black and pink has kind of always been the thing, right?
yeah, but I mean like
I like
The
that
fact
it's a
that they-
pale pink, which it should be.
Yeah, but the fact that they've really not only just stuck with it, but like have run with it. Like it's not even like like black armor with pink spauldrons or whatever. It's like you got some where it's like it's the like one is pink, the other's black, then it switches and it switches and it switches.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that's called. But like the Harley Quinn look, where it's like the colors like swap back and forth.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So
I really like what they've done here. If I was to paint these, and I'm not buying these because I'm not buying another 40k army, but if I was to paint these, I would 100% paint every version of this armor set that they've done. Like I would 100% paint those ones at the bottom with the tealy coloured hair. I would 100% paint the blank ones with. I would do all of it, because that also kind of screams Slanesh of everybody's expressing themselves in their own unique way.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, in a way that
Absolutely.
also all makes them look the same, which is perfect. All right, Socks, I've got a hard challenge for you, because I think deep down the answer to this is none of them, really. I want you to pick one of these models that's your favourite from the Slanesh stuff.
From the Slanesh stuff?
Yep. I didn't say it was an easy challenge.
No. Thanks. It might be the guy, Reigns. The old tail. The three weapons. The forearms.
Fulgrim.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
the
okay.
snake guy. Yep,
The snake guy.
at the top. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to not pick the Primarch because
Yeah.
it's a freaking Primarch. I'm gonna have to go with the Noise Marines because they just look so damn good. Like that noise gun of theirs,
Yeah.
so damn good.
Also, I love the organ backpack thing.
Right?
Yeah. I think ultimately for me, yes, it is Fulgrim, but I'm going to ignore Fulgrim for a minute because I kind of feel like that's the easy answer. I'm not criticizing you, Socks. I literally agree with you, but it's kind of the easy answer. Well, if we have the same answer, it's kind of boring. I think my favourite are the unhelmeted. Are they? Is it Palatine Blades? The ones down the bottom, where like they wear all the pink armor with the black leg piece. It's not quite the Harlequin. It's the ones before the Harlequin ones you're talking about. They're kind of painted similar, but it's not.
Yeah.
One of them kind of has like the bug face, and another like they're all kind of twisted. And I think that might be my favorite if you don't count Fulgrim. The answer is Fulgrim. But
All right. So now here's the question, and I don't know if I can find it real quick for Socks to reference. Now that we have all four of the Chaos Primarchs, which is the best Chaos Primarch for 40k, appearance-wise?
ooh.
My answer is locked in and solid, like regardless.
I'm having problems with this because my answer is Fulgrim, but I don't know if that's just because of recency bias.
So,
It
so
might
Socks,
be. I also
to
like
help you out
what's his
there,
name, the red.
yeah, if you're searching this to look, we've got Angron, We've got Magnus the Red, Mortarion, and then this one, Fulgrim. And like I said, mine is super easy, just because he's so unique from what the others are. So Fulgrim, right? Slanesh. How many things in Slanesh are snake things with multiple legs and arms, and the bat wings, right? How many times does that come through, right? A lot. Magnus the Red. He looks like the one of the greater demons, the Keeper of Secrets and Lord of Change, right? Feather wings and stuff like that. Angron, he's a bloodthirster. How many bloodthirsters are there?
Yeah.
My favorite is Mortarion, because he's so unique looking of the 4 Primarchs, and so unique looking to his own faction. Because if you look at the Nurgle stuff, they're all pussy and pustule and, fat and gross looking. He's got, like, the insect wings. He's not, like, overly gross or something like that. He's got more of a normal, controlled look compared to the others.
Socks, check the chat.
Yep.
For those that are watching and are not entirely aware of everything in 40k, I realise 40k people don't need to see these images, but not everybody's into it. So on screen now we have Angron, which we did talk about in a previous episode. I really do love this model personally. I think Angron is gorgeous. But yes, he is just a fancy bloodthirster. I really like Magnus the Red. It kind of surprises me that more people don't. Mortarion is gorgeous. It's Nurgle isn't really my thing, which hurts it for me. I really, to me, it's just Fulgrim, and that is just what it is. As I said, I feel like it might be recency bias. I don't think any of them are bad.
But like I said, the reason why, and if you look at the Mortarion one, like, he's still wearing his Space Marine armor. He's got the falling apart, like, fly wings. Like, he's the most changed and unchanged at the same time.
Yep. Like, there's almost nothing about Magnus that resembles what he was. Almost.
But except for the fact that, if you look at his wings, it's the same thing that the greater demons have, is they have those wings.
Oh, no, because like what you pointed out is that Mortarion still has his armor on. There's nothing about Magnus that even hints at what he used to be.
Yeah.
Well, no, there is definitely hints, but... And Angron is like, it's just you can see that the armor is there and that it's been twisted, but it's been twisted so much that it doesn't resemble it anymore. I guess you could say the same thing about Magnus. But yeah, Mortarion is as close to his original as he could be. Fulgrim is probably closer to his original than the other two, but not as close as Mortarion was.
Yeah. But like I said, that's why Mortarion's my pick, is because he's... It's just such a unique looking model, because if you look at all the Nurgle stuff too, he doesn't look gross and nasty like, an Unclean One does, or the Plague Marines, or, all those things. Like, the only thing that hints at it is his plaguey wings. Like, the rest of him looks fairly normal and nondescript still.
Socks, do you have an answer for the question?
I'd probably still go with Fulgrim.
You'd still go with Fulgrim?
Yeah.
That's fair. I don't think there's a wrong answer to this, just for the record.
I just thought it was a good question to ask, since, that's the whole, like, root of the lore is, you have the Emperor and you have the gods of chaos, and you got 4 major Primarchs that were seduced by chaos that become Chaos Primarchs. We've got all of them now, so...
Yeah. And of course, rumours abound of which one's going to be the next one, but I don't think we're going to get a next one at this point. I just don't feel that...
A Primarch?
No, a new demon Primarch. Because I mean, look,
no,
Primarch wise, like there's been the rumor that Sanguinius is coming back forever, which is never happening. Like they are never doing that.
yeah. Well,
With the exception of a Chaos person pretending to be Sanguinius, but otherwise it's never happening.
So, well, if we want to go and talk about that, there is a lot of solid talk that Layman Russ is coming back.
Yes, no, I do believe that is definitely happening. But there's
Because-
no way they're going to rewrite the lore to bring back somebody that's definitely dead.
No, yeah, the way they utterly terminated and Sanguinius is not coming back, period, at all.
If Sanguinius comes back, the game is dead. And I mean this quite literally. The game will be over. Because the lore doesn't work with him coming back. And if it's an imposter, fair enough. But we already have one of those.
Yeah. I mean, for the ultimate money grab, yes, Games Workshop would bring it back. At this point, though, I think they're still, like, trying to stay as truthful to the lore, as screwed up as they've made it sometimes. I don't think that he's coming back. I think we'll see a Vulcan. I think we'll see a Layman Russ. And I think that's it, in reality, for the Primarchs, because that gives us the Emperor, and then 4 for Chaos. I think that's it. And then occasionally, maybe a special character avatar as, like, an Eldar equivalent of a Primarch.
We already have one, though.
Well, no, like an actual named avatar.
As opposed to the avatar of... Okay.
Yeah, like, it's an avatar of, like, this is, like, would be, like, so-and-so the avatar of. Like an actual named one. I don't think we'll see something like that for the squats, because I don't think we'll... Well, no, we could see something Tau-wise, just, like, a bigger, badder, like, Gundam.
I think if we were to have another avatar, it would have to be an avatar... Well, like a greater avatar of the new god.
Yeah.
Because it would have to be the opening of like that merging happening further. Unless they do that, I don't see the point. Because the avatar that we have at the moment, is perfect. They don't need to change it. And as much as they are starting to replace things, or potentially replace things that have only been done recently, there's no way they're redoing that model. Like,
yeah.
Nobody would buy it.
The one thing I would love to see is an Orc war boss, no mech suit, no nothing, but on the same size scale as, like, a Primarch, like Gilliman and stuff.
Yep.
Like, like the supreme war boss. I would love to see them do that.
Yeah, like somebody that could actually take it to... Is it Gut Ripper? With the giant gun that I wanted to make a Nerf gun? Like there is one like he's a giant boss, but he's very much a mech one.
Yeah, that's a Gazgul or something like that, or
Gazgul. Yep. I don't know where I got Gut Ripper from.
Yeah, so, but yeah, like, just, like, a massive orc, like, no mech suit, like, that's just how big he is. Like, he is, like, the biggest of all the orcs. And therefore they're Primarch, because he's the biggest, strongest, so therefore he is the leader, because that's how orc hierarchy works.
I mean, in theory, it would have to be one of the older bosses that somehow has survived when we thought he was dead, I guess.
Indie. Definition. Independent. Type. Slang word. Jargon.
We are...
Okay, Bruce.
Yep.
I swear we've seen this before, Bruce, so...
This has been on our list of things to talk about for about 6 months. And I keep on putting it off.
But I remember another gladiatorial game, I thought, or maybe...
Yep. It wasn't this one, though.
It wasn't? Okay.
Nope.
Blood on the Sands is what we're talking about.
Yep. So Blood on the Sands is a game that has been in development for quite some time. They are in the process of about to launch their Kickstarter, which is why I was like, oh, we should probably talk about this. I was originally going to talk about something else and wait until the Kickstarter went live, but the link on the other story that I was going to talk about seems to have died overnight, so I don't know what's going on there. So I've left it. Blood on the Sands is a Roman gladiatorial combat game. No, it's not the only one. Yes, there's definitely another one out there. This one, it definitely is leaning more in towards how the gladiatorial games actually were, as opposed to... Because the other one had, like, fictional creatures and mythological creatures and stuff in it.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of, yeah. Okay.
Where this is more historically based.
So Socks would like it.
Yeah.
It does look very cool.
It is being developed by somebody in New South Wales. So, hey, this is an Australian game. Yay! They are working with War Games Atlantic for the miniatures, which, personally, I think look awesome.
Yeah.
I really like the look of that.
These minis look like they're straight. They're like sculpted straight out of like the Gladiator and Gladiator 2 movies.
No, there's no way that's accidental.
Well, I mean, but I was like, that's how, like, you know, they have that good look. That's what I'm trying to say. Like,
no, yeah, 100%. It's really, really nice looking stuff. So the game is played on a round table, as the other one was, and as it should be, because that's how gladiatorial combat was. It's... Oh, sorry, I stand corrected. It's an oval, not a circle. I thought that was just a perspective thing, but it's actually an oval. What I'm showing on screen at the moment is like a preview of what's going to come in the box. And then you have it with the look of the miniatures. I think he's doing really, really nicely here. There's also a link to the actual official website, which kind of shows off kind of a lot of what we were already looking at. So Frank Sultana is the person that's been working on this. He's been working on this... I've known about this for about a year and a half. There's been a couple of people at Beasts of War that's kind of been following this kind of closely as the game developed. The impression I have is that this guy has kind of started the same way I did, which is that he had an idea and nobody else was making it, so he decided he was going to be the one that made it. There's been a players group that's been helping with behind the scenes and like playtesting and that sort of stuff, similar to what I'm trying to do at the moment. And then he's had a Facebook page that has been a lot more active than my Facebook page is, because my Facebook page is quite literally just a placeholder until I'm ready. Is George eating? No. What's George doing?
No, he's doing something.
I'm removing supports.
Ah.
So yeah, I thought this is really cool. I love the fact that they've actually got like a proper manufacturer doing their models for them. I think that says a lot for the rules that they've clearly... Because there's no way War Games Atlantic would do this if they didn't have faith that the product was going to go very well. I'm very excited to see how this goes. February 11th is when this hits Kickstarter. I am following the Facebook page. I'm definitely keen to see what prices and stuff that they end up doing on this. I'm going to be linking the Facebook page as well as the actual website as well, which is just bloodonthesands.com. Speaking of which, I should probably get enterbycity.com, shouldn't I?
I probably should.
Yeah.
You probably shouldn't have said that on the episode, too.
It's fine. Worst case scenario, I can always get Entropy City the game. Also, I'm a nobody. Nobody's really going to care.
You're somebody to us, Bruce.
Yeah, I That also sounds like I'm putting myself down, but I more mean, like, I'm not somebody that I can make money out of. Though. Like I said, like, I think Frank's definitely onto something here. Gladiatorial, like, we did just say, like, there is another game out there that does Gladiatorial. It's very different from this. But this is still... Gladiatorial combat is arguably the thing from history that makes the most sense to make a game out of.
Oh, absolutely.
and it's massively underutilized.
Well, again, it goes back to why don't I play historical games? Well, because it's a historical game. It's documented. Like there's been a victor, it's or whatnot. That's why the fantasy stuff that it doesn't exist is more appealing because it's nothing real, so you can do whatever you want.
Yep.
This is going to be limited to, there's not going to be like a 10-shot repeating crossbow that you can walk around with. Why? Because, well, yeah, you couldn't have that. They were big, tripod mount things that took 5 or 6 guys.
For the record, George, Arena Rex is the game you were talking about.
Oh, okay.
For those that don't know, this is something I kind of decided to cover somewhat randomly on an episode a good year and a half ago at this point.
Yeah, that was a while ago, so.
Yeah. Continues to be a game that I'm very tempted to buy, despite the fact that I have nobody to play it with.
Same here. Like, it looks so good, it's just like, but... No, I like the look at this just because, and like you said, it's gladiatorial combat. It's a 2-player game. That's what gladiatorial combat was well, a 2-player game with very high stakes.
So there we go. That's our aiming for the indie. Like, genuinely, I've been going to talk about this game for a very long time. It's been on the run sheet at least 4 times before we've covered it, and I've replaced it last minute with either something that George has found last minute or something that Sox has found last minute. And this is not a criticism, because I've done it too. Because it was always something like, this is a product, but it's not a product yet, so it might be too early to talk about it. This is definitely the time to talk about it. So,
For sure.
Hobby talk, starting with George.
Trim, glue, prime, paint.
Listen to you.
So I just printed this.
What is it? A trigger of some kind, by the look of it.
It holds a dropper, and it goes into a sawzall, and it goes.
Don't you already have one of the vibrator things?
So I do, but it's not violent enough for this paint. Turbo Dorks is very notorious for turning into cheese and separating and becoming clumpy. So I need to violently shake it because this one is a black red shift. Yeah, see, I've got one of those, but it's not violent enough.
Mine has stopped working.
Oh.
Because I've unplugged it.
I was going to say, you unplugged it. Mine's sitting right back there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a black red shift, and so I'm gonna use the black red shift on the big scales on my Magma Droth with my yellow red shift on the smaller scales on my Magma Droth, because I don't know what it is, but I really pulled out my Fire Slayer stuff, and I really started getting back to getting that in a cohesion and put together. I put together 3 guys today. I have done a count, and I have currently 45 little dwarves to put together. And then I only need a shockingly small amount, and I say shockingly small because it is Games Workshop, $280 worth of minis to have my army built out the way I want it.
Nice.
Which, in the grand scheme of Games Workshop, 280 is a small number. The other thing I did was I had an epiphany, and I was able to fix the wheels on my collapsible table so that it can actually roll again now and be set up and used to game on.
What was wrong with the wheels?
So it had like the standard little plastic dinky wheels that you get on like
the crappy
office
ones.
chairs. Yeah, and I replaced them with some big like 2-inch like nice rolling wheels, but the metal that the wheels screwed into was so flimsy that the way the wheels bent the metal. And so, like, the wheels, instead of being straight up and down, were cocked like this, and, like, it wouldn't sit level, the table wouldn't, and it wouldn't roll. Well, I got some 2-part JB Weld epoxy, screwed the wheels in all the way, got it straight, and then shoved in all this epoxy putty in, and now that's set up and solid, so now the wheels are, they're good.
Straight.
Yeah.
On the subject of this stuff, right? Slightly
Yeah.
off topic. Well, very off topic. But I just kind of want... For those of you that don't own one of these, I just want to kind of acknowledge something for a second. And it's kind of hinted at something that George is just saying. People talk about everybody should buy one of these things because it'll fix all of your problems. And that is a blunt and outright lie. None of these solutions will fix all of your problems. Just like stainless steel balls inside your paint pot will not fix all of your problems. All of them will help. None of them will solve the problems. You are still going to have to work at getting paints working sometimes. Paints are still going to dry out and be unusable sometimes.
Or
It's
freeze,
just...
like in George's case.
Yeah.
Well, no, they didn't freeze. They didn't freeze. But they are
Almost.
still they're clumpy and they're not liquid. So and they've discontinued this color. So
Oh, yeah, they redid their line recently. Yeah.
yeah, so my hope is I got 2 more of these and I had one, and I'm hoping that I can get enough paint saved to where I can get the 2 dragons done and call it good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But hence why I'm going to attach one to a Sawzall and shake the living, fill in an expletive there to see if I can get the pigment separated back out, because I've got mixing balls, I've put in paint, Vallejo paint thinner, I've done everything I can to make it as liquid as possible, and now I just need to violently shake it.
Yep. What
And
about
I
yourself?
can't think of anything more violent than using a Sawzall, since they're designed to reciprocate rapidly to demolition on walls and stuff. So
Before I ask the next question, I think it's probably worth saying that Socks has had arguably one of the worst weeks known to man at this point. So this is where I turn around to Socks, knowing the answer to this question, when I say, "Hey Socks, what have you done this fortnight?"
Yeah. So nothing, because as George and Bruce know, I've had the work week. I'm still dealing with landlord issues. Horrendous.
Plus.
Yeah.
there is a silver lining.
There is.
Socks is
Getting out of
not.
the house.
Well, no, I was going to say you haven't physically harmed someone.
No, that's
I'm
true.
not sure if he's physically capable of it.
There
He's
are
too
times
nice.
I am nice, yes, but this landlord issue is making me want to.
Like
be
Socks
mad.
sits in Socks sits in a chair for a living. The most violent thing he's ever done is stand up in front of somebody.
Not true. Anyways, no, we're finally getting to a light at the end of the tunnel of this issue.
Yeah.
To where I can feel like I can actually do something without having to spend all my energy fighting an issue that's not my fault. And we believe it's not our fault. We're going to look into that even more.
Can you do that further away from your microphone or leave it till later?
Yeah. So, no, but we're under contract for a new house. So once this is done and over with, I'll probably have more mental capacity to actually get something done. Because right now, I'm needing to start packing stuff up. So,
Yeah. I'm surprised that
Again.
there's not more boxes
Again.
behind you. I was expecting them. I mean, there are some.
There are some, but probably in the next week or two, when my assignments are not due for school, I'll probably start boxing stuff up again.
In the comments, let's throw some thank yous to Major Socks, because about a month and a half ago he warned us that he was probably going to have to skip some episodes, and he hasn't missed one.
Nope.
I have done a little
Once
bit of
here-
painting.
here and there, but yeah, what do you got, Bruce?
Well, I've done a little bit of not a lot. I've done a little bit more of my worms. I have 2 complete trays of miniatures. I would love to show them off, but they just don't seem to show up very well because of my lighting. I mean, it's not. Oh, that doesn't show up too badly. So this
Well,
is like the
that's the
worm
problem.
flamethrower.
You have good lighting for your miniatures, and then you look like crap on camera, or you have good lighting, so you look good on camera, but then you can't show off minis. So
So I finished this tray off Monday night, I think. And I had genuinely had a lot of fun with it. I quite like the grenade guy. I mean, there's like 5 or 6 of this same miniature. The most annoying part of this is doing the eyes, because let's be fair, white is a pain.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
And their eyes, so.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they're big eyes, which makes them a little easier, right? I mean, truth be told, the pupils for these guys, I'm actually doing in contrast paint, because it actually stands out enough where you can kind of just dot it and it just pulls over the pupil. I've messed up a couple of them and then trimmed it, but it's been pretty easy, really. I also started the weapons on the next one. I've just done the silver on this so far. That's all I've done. Oh, I pulled out one that hasn't actually had... I did that blind. There we go. There's one that's been done. But if I turn him around, quite literally, that's the only thing. There's no eyes there yet.
No, it's starting to look good.
I'm really, really happy with what's been coming out. These are miniatures that lend themselves to being painted really easily. Once everything is done, my intention is still to wash them, because you should wash them, and then re-highlight the skin back up, because at this stage the skin is all flat colour, which is okay, but it's going to make them look flat if I don't do that. But I just want to get them all painted so I can play with them. Well, I could play with them now, but I want them to be painted before I do. Especially we're kind of still really enjoying Cthulhu Death May Die, so as much as I should kind of be pushing to play this, at the same time I'm like, it's okay. It gives me more time to paint.
Have you guys jumped into season 3 and 4 yet?
No, I told you the answer to that.
Oh.
I don't remember what the answer was. The answer was that he hit you or something, right?
Well, I said that.
Oh no, he growled at you.
Like playing with the extra unknown monsters to make it harder was better.
Yeah. He is not willing to open the stuff that he's not up to yet. We've just changed gods to Cthulhu, and we're playing through the original still. He's still painting up season 2, so.
Yeah.
It is what it is. That is hobby.
Talk nerdy to me.
I had this thought yesterday, and it's not something that this is not going to be the first time that we've spoken about it. But maybe let's talk a little bit about what got us into the hobby to begin with, like the original draw cards. I mean, we've mentioned a number of times that Sox has never been into Games Workshop, to the point where it's probably a bigger joke than me rolling ones at this point.
Probably is.
I also think it's a joke that only George and I appreciate. But I just thought it's been a long time since I don't think we've discussed this since our first episode, really.
Even then, if we even really did discuss it.
Yeah. So for me, I might, because Socks looks like he kind of needs time to process this.
Yeah, answer.
My earliest memories of the hobby come about 10 to 15 years before I actually bought anything. Well, actually, no, that's not entirely true. When I was in high school, and I want to say it was year 8, I was walking through the corridors at one point down near reception, and there was this display that had been put up of Warhammer miniatures, and I had never seen them before. Now, what I didn't know at the time, because I lived quite a fair way from the school, I travelled in an hour every day, each way. This isn't the old man talking about walking uphill in the snow for 3 hours. Like, quite literally, I had an hour to school. I lived quite a way out from town. And what I've later found out is that this was a display that had been painted up by one of the science teachers, because he was a Warhammer nerd, and he was in the process of trying to get a group together at the school as like an after hours thing. Like, it's a fairly classical story, right? Of course, learning this later, I mean, I didn't have money. Like, we were not well off when I was young. Like, we were a struggling household. But also, it all happened after hours when I had no option of being there anyway, because I lived an hour away. But I had 3 or 4 discussions about what this hobby was with that teacher, and I'd never seen the miniatures for sale anywhere. So I had no idea where to get them. I'm pretty sure at that particular point, at least in Australia, it was still mail in. Or at least it was mainland, and that's kind of where you were stuck from. I was still living in Tassie at this point. About a decade... Ooh, no. The first thing I bought was probably 6 or 7 years later, which is I bought a Tactical Marine Squad in year 12, which is college for me. College is not university for me. Because I know that's exactly what you think of when I say college. Well, either that or you think community college, which is something else again. Because me and 2 friends were going to get into it, and we got all excited for it. We all picked our factions, and then Dawn of War happened, and then we played Dawn of War and never actually played the game. I did have a tactical squad and a land speeder somewhere that unfortunately have long disappeared. I have no idea why. I don't remember throwing them. I think they just went missing in one of my moves at some point, which is a real shame. Because unfortunately, as someone that often suggests to people that you should never paint over your old miniatures, I don't have my original miniatures. I have no referral point. I do have some old miniatures that I can refer back to, but I don't have my first stuff. It disappeared at some point, which is a real shame. Me getting into the hobby ironically happened when I was trying to find a butcher. I was walking down one of the main streets trying to find a butcher, because one of the butchers that I'd been a big fan of, where I used to work, had moved down the road from where I used to live, and I was trying to find where their store was. And then I saw a Games Workshop. I was like, oh, I know what that is. And so I walked in, and I'm pretty sure this is the story that you both have heard, which is I walked in to just have a look, and I walked out $180 poorer. Never did find where that butcher was, just for the record. But I bought into the Blood Angels, which is what I wanted to play, and pretty much haven't stopped since. So there we go. That's my origins. I have a fairly cliche start. At the time when I bought the Blood Angels, I did start hyper-focusing and researching what else was out there, and kind of got this false impression that if I didn't play Games Workshop, I wasn't going to be able to play anything, so I had to stick with Warhammer. I did find out 3 or 4 years later that that wasn't entirely true. That was just what Games Workshop fans try to point out. I mean, it's not untrue, but as George can say, like, it is much harder to get games of anything else than it is of Games Workshop stuff. I mean, yeah. Socks can vouch for that as well. It's not impossible though. So yeah, that's my origin story. I ultimately got into it much later than both of you, because I would have been in my 30s by the time I was actually in the hobby properly.
Yeah, so I'd done model cars growing up, and like I'd always done like, you know, the traditional, you know,
like the Tamiya stuff and.
No, not even that. Well, Tamiya isn't a big thing here in the U.S. really. It's Testers and Revel.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, so like I'd done those, and like, you know, just I put the model kit together and whatnot, and called it done. You know, did the best that a 10-year-old can do. You know, painting it and whatnot. And then towards the end of high school, I got really into this idea of like, I'm gonna do a cool model car. You know, we did have a model store, and they had like, you know, your ship models, your plane models, car models. Like, that's pretty much all they had, was just virtually every type of model. And I was trying to make a drag car, and so, like any good drag car, you know, it's like, it looks cool, but it's also, you know, got lots of safety stuff and a really big motor, right? So the base of it was a 50s Mercury coupe. Really beautiful looking car, in my opinion. And I gone through, and I was taking putty, and I was filling in all the door seams, just trying to make it look like a fiberglass body, one piece. And I wasn't messing with the plastic windows, because drag cars don't have windows. Well, they also don't have, you know, normal interiors. So I took a NASCAR model, and took that frame and chassis and the roll cage, and modified and cut that down so that this Mercury body would fit over it. And then, like in typical style, I got the body so that it hinged up off so that you could access the internals. And when I went to this hobby store, I was buying like all the fancy stuff. I was buying the supercharged V8 with headers and all the pipes and stuff, so it looked like a drag motor. Bigger tires and all. Like, I even bought a paint finishing kit to give it a glassy finish when it's all done. It had like 20,000 grit sandpaper.
Oh,
so
wow!
You could sit there and Yeah, it was ridiculous. And one day I went in there to buy more stuff, and the entire back of the shop had changed. And there was these tables set up, and there was these guys, playing this game, and I'm standing there, I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, it's Warhammer 40K. 3rd edition just came out. And that was in 1998. And I'd never, I got an army, and I could never really get settled onto, what I wanted to play. I had Chaos, I had the Ultramarines, I had
so you have like the
Eldar.
cliche story then.
Yeah, and so fast forward a couple years, I was at San Diego Comic Con in 2000. Yeah, it was right before. Yeah, it was before 9/11 happened.
George,
So
you forgot to say before it was cool. You went to San Diego Comic Con before it was cool.
Yeah, you're correct there. And Games Workshop was there, and they unveiled the Tau.
Nice.
And yeah, so that's kind of where like the addiction and the bugs started. And
So
ever
that's
since
interesting
then,
because that ties in with quite literally when I bought in. I bought in, I think it was a month, 2 months before the Tower was shown off. So
Could have
we
been, 'cause
we
I
have
was-
bought in within months of each other.
No, because that was 2000, 2001. If you were in your 30s, that would have been.
Oh no,
Was-
I'm the original set that I bought, that Tactical Marine Squad.
Yeah.
I bought that a
you're
month or
right.
two before the Tower was shown off.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, no, I had already had stuff for a couple years at that point.
Oh, okay.
But that was the one thing that was like, because when I first got into it, a lot of it was still a majority pewter and whatnot. And the Dark Eldar had just been released for 3rd edition, and that was all plastic. And I liked putting that together because I got the 3rd edition box, so I had some Dark Eldar, and I had the Space Marines, which I think they were Dark Templars is what they were paid up to be on the box.
It sounds right.
Yeah, and so I remember like, ooh, these plastic kits are way better than this crap pewter, which that's right when I got into it is when my hate for metal developed. Which I really wanted to get into fantasy, but everything was pewter in there, and so, but after that, after seeing the plastic Tau and got out of the military because being a junior enlisted, which is way worse than being an officer, relocating because you're subhuman at that point. Really couldn't have a lot of the stuff I wanted and be in the military. When I got out, got in, got out, got in, got out, and then I want to say probably about 15 years ago, I got in and haven't looked back since as far as like in the hobby.
Yeah. So we've got back in at roughly the same time too. It sounds like you're a couple of years before I have, but we've got back in at roughly the same. Our histories, despite never having known each other, are very closely linked, time frame wise.
Yeah.
And I know that we've covered this story before. But
I know I've heard Sox's origin story before. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
Sox starts with historical gaming, but what led you into it?
So I had grown up playing historical board games. My dad had the original Milton Bradley Axis and Allies game from the 1980s. He played that in college, and when I was growing up, 10, 12, I would pull it out and play it. And so I love playing that. I played that in high school with my friends. I'd bring it over, we'd play that. And then since I love historical board games, I walked into, when I was in college, a couple of years after I got married. This is back in 2006, 2007 timeframe. Walked into a board game store at the local mall that I was just down the road from my college, just looking for board games. And I walked into the back section. It had a front section with all their board games, and I walked into the back section, and there with all the wargaming stuff. And it looked very interesting. I mean, as you guys know, Flames of War was my first game, and I was looking into that. And one of the employees said, "Well, there's a group of guys that comes here every Friday or Saturday and plays it. So if you want to learn how to play the game,
that's when you need
they'll
to
have
come
an army
in
for you."
Yep.
So I showed up that Friday or Saturday or whatever it was, and the rest is history. I mean, I've been playing since 2006, 2007, so almost 20 years now.
And when you're looking at
now that
Axis
we're back
versus
in-
Allies, Flames of War is quite literally that on like it's just the more complicated version, right? It's the
Yeah,
same
absolutely.
time frame. Rule sets are insanely different, but it's essentially the same idea.
Same thing on a tabletop. Yep. So I loved it. And then when I moved to fast forward 6 years, and I moved to England after I commissioned and graduated with the Air Force, got a group out there, and that's where I got into Drop Zone. So.
I also forgot to mention Magic the Gathering when I started that in 1994 as well. So I forgot that.
1999 for Magic for me.
It was probably 96, 95, 96 for me.
Yep. So, George and I's stories are a lot closer in the time frame than what I ever expected them to be. I knew that we had similar stories coming in, but the fact that they were like both occasions of us dipping our foot in and then jumping head first. Like the first one's within a month or two, the second one's maybe a year or two. That I didn't know.
So a little curious here then. Socks, have you ever done any role-playing games, D&D, Shadowrun?
Yeah. I did D&D in high school.
Okay. When did you do your first game of D&D?
98, 99.
Oh,
When was yours,
99.
Bruce?
99 for me.
No, so mine was in 99 as well. 99. I was at MLS
Wow,
school.
that's crazy.
29 Palms.
So this we have never discussed.
No.
So yeah, I was thinking that was just really interesting because I've got you by 4 years, I think, Bruce. On Socks, I think I've got you by 3 years.
I'm 41.
Okay, so I've got you by 5.
Yeah, George is even older than he looks, folks.
Yeah, no, I'm
73.
4 years. Huh?
I said you're 73.
I am not 73.
Sorry,
Older than
74.
But you're 42, Bruce, or 43?
43. I turned 43 in October.
Okay, so you've got 3 years and then so I think that's really weird that we all played our same game or played D&D like roughly the
Within
same
a year,
time.
year and a half of each other.
Yeah,
I would say within a year of each other because I was in 99.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What did you play, George?
I played a elf warrior.
Oh, I'm surprised.
Yes. For the first 2 years of D&D, I was all about the elves, and then I don't know what happened. It was just like dwarves are way cooler.
George, you need to hand in your dwarf card. You're not allowed to be a dwarf fan anymore. You have betrayed them.
I didn't play them yet.
Well, it doesn't matter. You're not allowed. You're not allowed to be associated with hairdressers.
I just think that's really weird that like seriously though, like a year time frame is when we all played D&D for the first time now.
Yeah. So I did play a dwarf for my first character. I didn't want to play a dwarf. I got forced to play a dwarf cleric. because they needed a cleric and there wasn't a dwarf in the party. It's not what I wanted to play, it's what I got forced to play. And then I kind of made it my own anyway, and I actually ended up loving it, but I literally got forced to play what I was playing the first time around. I had no choice in the matter at all. Which still annoys me to this day, but I did enjoy the experience. Sorry, Sucks?
So for
I think I played a ranger, either elf or human. I can't remember.
Yep.
That's what I'm recalling from memory.
So for those listening and don't know all the stuff off the top of your head, that means we all played Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, it does.
Which means we all
3.5.
knew how to Huh?
3.5.
No, 2.0.
Was it 2.0?
Yeah, that's Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Then there was Dungeons and Dragons 3.0, which was in 2003-ish?
I've got false memories of that then.
And then 3.5 and, yeah, so no, this was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and that means all three of us at one point knew how to calculate our THACO.
Yeah,
because
true.
armor class 0 was the lowest you could get your armor to go, because back then you wanted your armor to be as low as possible, and you had to calculate to hit armor class 0. Which is what THACO was, to hit armor class 0.
Yep. So, yeah, you're right. The year 2000 is when 3.0 comes out. I have always had a false memory of what edition I was playing. I always thought I was playing 3.5. I've never played it then. That means my gap between editions is even larger than I always thought it was. Because I thought I stopped around the peak of 3.5. And I was never playing 3.5 at all. I didn't play 3.5, or 4th.
That's right. I was getting most of my 3.0 stuff when I was over in Japan.
Wow. Isn't it interesting when you realize you've had false memories about something?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, there's
Mind has been blown, folks.
As we go down memory lane.
I have been lying to people for God knows how long, without ever that's never been deliberate, because I've always told people that I was originally playing around 3.5, and that's never been true. Wow. Just for the record, hang on, where are we? I might actually put this on screen. So that needs to go over here. And then on screen, we now have quite literally the timeline. So original D&D is from 74 till 76. AD&D first edition takes over in 77 until 88. Second edition starts in 1989 and doesn't go away for 10 years.
Right when we jumped in.
Yeah.
And even, like, just playing it for that little bit before 3.0 came out and whatnot, I will still argue that was D&D at its best, version 2.0, because there was nothing overly complicated. You only needed literally that one book, because even with just that player's handbook, even the DM could just run everything off that one book.
I have a feeling that I know where my false memory has come from. I think in the year 2000, I bought the new Monsters Manual when it came out. Because I did own that at one point, along with the Dungeon Master's Guide. And I think that's where my false memory comes from. Is I had those editions of those, and I've just falsely believed that that's what I was always playing, which is clearly not true. Because this is also Peak Dungeon magazine, right?
I believe so.
Sorry, Dragon magazine.
Yeah.
Interesting. There we go, folks. I've had my memories. I've had my memories returned to me. That's our game talk for the day. I have just very briefly realised, and I might show them off next episode. I bought into Moonstone how long ago? A year and a half? 2 years ago?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I only painted my fairy models this week. Well, sorry. One of them I had painted previously, and then I was going to get around to the rest of them. I never did because I got distracted. I've painted everything that I owned, apart from one model that has gone missing and walking, and all of their wings that have gone missing and walking. I will eventually find them, but I just can't find them at this stage. Because I have a game of Moonstone next weekend that I need to use my own models for.
Nice.
Up until now, every game I've played with somebody else's models. Because my models... I've never had a way of transporting them, which I'm hoping my... Because the fairy models are extremely fragile. And on a mod... I should probably have a discussion about transporting things on a motorbike at some point in the future. Because it's a giant pain.
What is that case?
The one I have?
It's a metal structure.
No. Don't use those on a motorbike. It's a terrible idea. The A case. As I can say from experience, that metal cases on a motorbike is the worst idea you could possibly have. It makes everything worse. Because what happens with magnets when they come loose? They get thrown. I have shattered and lost an entire army due to that solution once before.
I'm trying to remember.
Foam is the option.
Battle foam.
I have battle foam.
I was gonna say with your new bike, one of the big battle foam cases would be like really ideal probably for you because you've got that.
Well, I have the 720, which is like it's a fairly decently sized bag. It's a shame that posting that stuff out to Australia is so expensive. Because basically what it means is like there's 2 times a year where I can afford to buy battle foam. I have 2 of their 720s. I have 2 of their smaller bags as well. But yeah, no, the 720s is pretty much... Because I don't play mass battle games anymore, so I don't really need anything bigger than the 720. But I personally, I would not recommend another brand over the battle foam. I still think they are the top of the line.
Game Plus Products is getting pretty good.
I'm not saying that other companies are bad. I'm just saying for a motorbike, I would not recommend anything above them. Because they have the metal clasps that you can use proper straps to strap them down with. Which is not something you need to do on a motorbike. So it's not something you need to do in a car. But you do have to... Unless you're going to carry it over your shoulder, which creates a lot of pain at my age.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
We have CanCon coming up from the 25th until the 27th of January. So that's not next week. No, it's next weekend.
It's next week.
It's next Friday.
Yeah.
Adepticon's coming up on March 26th till 30th. Don't forget that's happening at the Baird Center in Milwaukee this year. It's not happening in Chicago area anymore, which I still find really weird. I don't know if it was actually in Chicago, but it was around Chicago somewhere, right?
Yeah, it was south.
South?
Yeah, it was in the Chicago metro area.
Yeah.
Salute is coming up on Saturday the 12th of April at the London Excel Centre. ArcFest is coming up in May 3rd till 4th at the Sandown Racecourse in Melbourne, featuring 40k, Age of Sigmar, Middle Earth, Old World, Infinity, Shatterpoint, so Star Wars Shatterpoint, and the Arc Open Painting Competition. So we got quite a few big events happening. Get along to whichever ones are in your area. You should definitely be supporting them, especially the ones that are trying to expand, because those are the ones that if you don't support them will fall over. Trying to increase the size of an event is a very risky thing to do. So definitely make sure that you support them. Valhalla Hobby. Thank you again to Valhalla Hobby for sponsoring us. They've been supporting us for quite some time at this stage. They are wonderful people.
2 years.
Yep. Wonderful people. We really appreciate their time. They're based in Verona, Wisconsin. They don't just have good prices. I mean, yes, they do have good prices. Yes, you can get a slight discount with our code TABLED. If you use that at checkout, you get 5% off your first order of $100 or more. We get no kickback from that. It's just something that they do to show that that's where the referral came from. And so that you have a reason to use it. They do have your big players, like they do have Warhammer. They do have all of your big players, but they have a real passion for the indie scene as well. Bushido, the Drop Universe, War Cradle, like all of this stuff is things that you have access to through Valhalla Hobby. If you go to look at their website, the list of the games that they have access to and will order in is quite remarkable and unusual for America. Normally, you will have a store risk one or two of the smaller lines. That they have a range. It's quite good to see. You can find them at valhallahobby.com. That's valhallahobby.com. And if you use the code TABLED, you get 5% off your first order of $100 or more. Thank you again for Valhalla Hobby. Where can people find us, George?
They can find everything early where you become a fumbler. I'm still going to try working that word until we come up with something better. But if you become a fumbler for $2 a month, you get early access to all the video versions at patreon.com/gettingtabled. Our website is gettingtabled.com. Most of the posts when we tell people that, hey, something's up and we're talking about something, that'll be on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/gettingtabled. The video version, all the unboxings, anything else we do, you'll find that at youtube.com/gettingtabled. Please give us a like and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. Anything you want us to talk about, know about, or got questions for us, shoot us an email at gettingtabled@gmail.com. X, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads is all at Getting Tabled. And did I say Blue Sky? I meant
no.
I see it right here. Okay, Blue Sky. But yeah, Threads. Yeah. And Bruce has a Twitch. Occasionally he does stuff there. It's twitch.tv/JasonTheBruce. Give that a follow. You'll get a notification when he goes live to do stuff. If you want to spend time with him. That sounds as creepy as I meant it to be, by the way. And then, of course, if you want to check out more of the stuff that Bruce is doing, you can find him over at youtube.com/toyreel.
We still need to do our best of 2024 episode. Everything's kind of been a little busy lately, so that still needs to happen.
Yeah.
That's for
Toyreel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard a joke the other day, and I thought it was appropriate for Socks. Socks, you know how white you are? You're so white, you get a tan standing in front of the microwave.
Thanks, George.
You're welcome, Socks. Any parting words of wisdom for the folks before we get the heck out of here for the fortnight?
Thank you, Socks.
You're welcome.
Hit the button, George.
Do the thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matthias at soundimage.org.
Thank you, George.